In this video, I'll give you the risers and fallers at wide receiver in 2024 fantasy redraft leagues. I'm Jim Coventry of Rotowire. All right, risers. Cooper Kupp has sailed up the draft boards this summer. Cooper Kupp was commonly going outside the top 20 receivers. People were worried about age, durability, Puka Nacua being the guy. Well, a few stories come out of training camp and the whole perspective changes. Sean McVay and his coaches were talking up the idea that Cooper Kupp was never healthy last year. He's completely healthy this year. The offense is going to run through Cooper Kupp. Now, Puka Nacua is still being drafted ahead of Kupp, but Kupp is back in that wide receiver one range. And that said, the expectation that the Rams could have a juggernaut on offense, that Sean McVay has crafted an offense that is very difficult for defenses to deal with. Look, if Cooper Kupp plays like he did earlier in his career and he stays healthy, yeah, it'll be great. But Cooper Kupp has missed significant time the last couple of years. He had the Superman year 3 years ago when he had 1,900 yards. He had one other season with 1,100 yards, but that's been it. I mean, some years he was on pace to do really well, but missed time. And Kupp's over 30. And we talk about age and recovery from injury. If Kupp gets nicked up, it may not bode well in his on-field performance. He could miss more time than anticipated. It's a big gamble taking Cooper Kupp. Remember, he's only had two really great fantasy seasons. One was Superman again. The other was just very good. And that said, you're really taking a gamble here. And if Nacua cuts in even more work than expected, Matthew Stafford, obviously all receivers need their quarterback, so that's kind of a moot point. But Matthew Stafford has had neck and back injuries over the years. Those are different kinds of injuries. Those could flare up, and those could be longer-term concerns for a 36-year-old quarterback. But again, all quarterbacks and receivers, they kind of need each other, so we get that. But Kupp, he's rising, but now he's at a price where you are expecting a full season of health, the same level of production, that we had seen maybe on a per game basis in prior years. But again, there's risk. And obviously Rashee Rice has moved way up the rankings this summer, wide receiver 22, because right now it appears there is no buzz as to whether his league is going to be a factor this year. Right now, with no talk, maybe that discipline gets pushed over to next year. We've seen it happen many times in the NFL. So right now, fantasy managers are betting on the fact that Rashee Rice will be on the field for a full season of games. Is there risk? Yes, there's some. We have no official word that that's been pushed to next year. In terms of Rashee Rice himself, it's interesting. Obviously, he was either learning the offense or gaining trust in the first half of the season. In the last 6 weeks of the season and then through the playoffs, we saw him get 9 targets in the majority of his games or more. And so he was getting pounded with targets. So the question is, we know Rice is a good player, but did he get those 9+ targets a game because they had nobody else at receiver aside from Kelce, the tight end? And was it just they had to force the ball his way? Or did Rice command those targets? Because now Marquise Brown, he should be ready. We'll talk about him in a minute. He should be ready soon, I would think. And Xavier Worthy's in the mix. And now Kelce may see more room to operate because the fast receivers, again, Worthy and Marquise Brown, they are potentially opening up the safeties and forcing them from spinning down and ganging up on the tight end. So all that said, if you're betting on Rashee Rice at wide receiver 22, you better hope that he commanded all those targets and they're going to say no to the other receivers. Because if this is spread out, and Marquise Brown has always had 100 targets in the season, he deserves those. He earns those. We don't know quite what Worthy is. Some people have high expectations. But if Rice doesn't get the volume or hope you're hoping for, that could be a trap. But again, if you know better, then definitely roll with them. If you enjoy videos like this, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the Rotowire Fantasy Football channel on YouTube. Also, you can check out all of our fantasy football content and rankings by getting a free 2-day trial. No credit card needed. Just head on over to rotowire.com/Jim and you can check out all of our content. All right, well, we mentioned Rashee Rice. A faller's been Hollywood Brown, wide receiver 49. He was going around wide receiver 33, and then he had the sternoclavicular injury and put this beginning of the season in doubt. Now, I noticed on the Rotowire cited as of August 28th, Hollywood Brown has been moved to questionable from doubtful for week 1. And it's, this recording, it's almost 2 weeks away from kickoff. A week away because they play a weeknight game. My apologies there. But anyway, Hollywood Brown, maybe he misses a game in long shot 2, I think. I don't think it goes beyond that. Because if he's already been moved up the injury status, he's not far from returning. And look, where you're drafting Brown, he's a bye week coverage guy for you at that rate. And you don't have bye weeks until week 5. So Brown should be back in. Brown is a perfect receiver for Patrick Mahomes. He can improvise, and that's what Patrick Mahomes does. And Hollywood Brown is super fast. He can improvise in the middle level. He's also very good at finding the way to break deep on a play that breaks down. And Mahomes is always hunting for the big play. I think it's a match made in heaven, Hollywood Brown and Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, durability concerns are there, but now at wide receiver 49, yeah, there I think you are getting a steal. And I think when Hollywood Brown is on the field and functioning well, you're going to have at least a wide receiver 2 on your hands. Well, I should say a good wide receiver 2 on your hands, and there is no better value right now than that. George Pickens has made a slight fall in drafts. He's down to wide receiver 31. He was going in the 27 or so wide receiver a while back. Don't really know why he's fallen. It should be very clear that he is the number 1 receiver in that offense, and Freiermuth, the tight end, is probably the number 2. So Pickens should get his work. I think playing with Arthur Smith, we got to think back to the Tennessee days when they had A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry there, and Ryan Tannehill was the quarterback, and there was a lot of play action, and there was a use of that alpha receiver who could run those diagonal routes, can run those over routes. A.J. Brown was able to do those. And I'm not saying George Pickens is A.J. Brown, but they could run those same types of plays. And I think that Justin Fields and or Russell Wilson can make those specific throws that are big-bodied receiver. I think that's in play. So I think right now, a little bit of a value on Pickens. I think people are worried about Drake London being up and down in Arthur Smith's last version of the offense in Atlanta. But I think here, because he is just so far the number 1, that I think that Pitts was getting his targets, just were getting downfield targets, and they were poor quality. But I think here, Pickens is so far the number 1 that he has to get more than that usual 115-ish targets you get in that Arthur Smith offense. We could get 125. But that said, I think the big plays are going to be there for George Pickens, and I think he's going to be super efficient, and I think he's a very fair play at that ADP.